So if we throw one leg out to the side, we won't have our block this time because we won't need it. You're just gonna find a stretch for your groin, and a lot of the same variables exist here in terms of things that you can play with. You can start to play with leg further in front, leg a little further back. You can play with angles of hip rotation. Just keep in mind that when you come up, you're gonna feel it more in hamstring than you will in groin. If you don't have the ankle mobility to get your full foot flat on the ground, you can have your foot up like this if you need to, but let that be a sign that maybe you should work on your ankles. There's ankle inversion classes in there as well. Those might be a good one to visit if you struggle with this. And then same thing, you can also play with your angle of hip flexion. So you could come forward a little bit, you can sink back into it a little bit, you can come forward and you can adjust your pelvis angle or do that at any angle. You can play with all of those things and just find whatever feels like your best stretch. Tinker with all of those a little bit and just explore your tissue and get familiar with where it feels tightest for you. So for me, right here, again, is where it feels tightest at about this angle. So this is gonna be where I hang out. Now, if you're, again, in tall kneeling, you can adjust all of those variables in tall kneeling as well. One thing I will say for the tall kneeling position is that if you are up here, you don't necessarily have to come way down to find a stretch. You can usually stay a little bit more upright, but if you look at your pelvis, if it's tilted like this, you'll feel less of a stretch. If you bring it down on the side that you're stretching and bring it back the other way, you can typically find a stretch up top. So I feel a really good stretch there in my groin. That's something to be mindful of as well. Sometimes we think, I don't really feel it, I can't feel it in this position, I have to get really low, and then you're working really hard to be there, you can't fully relax. Often that's not the case. You just need to be a little bit more mindful of what's happening at your pelvis and take the other half of the joint and manipulate it to get that tissue on stretch. So we spent a little bit of time stretching here. If you want to spend a little bit more time, please feel free to hit pause and bank some extra time here. Otherwise, you can get started with me. We're going to start a PAILS contraction just like we did on the other one. Nice and slow ramping up. Driving our foot down into the ground, whether you're in collapsed kneeling or tall kneeling. Slowly climbing. So 10% to start. Make your way up to 20%. Keep climbing 30%. 40% working that underside stuff. If you want to climb to 50, you can. If you want to go a little higher, you can find 60, but we'll hang out somewhere in that range. And we are going to hold. Now, same rules apply here. If we had a weigh scale underneath of that foot, I want you to try and keep that number as even keel as you can without letting it fluctuate too much. Just trying to hold that sustained contraction, keeping it as consistent as you can the entire time, making sure that you're still breathing. As soon as you start holding your breath, you push yourself into fight or flight. This is not a fight or flight focused class. This is more of a recovery focused class. So slow inhales, long exhales the entire time. We're almost there. We've got about 10 seconds left. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly ramp your way back down. So remember, it's not a quick relax. Nice slow ramp up, nice slow ramp down.